recording this, so this will be available afterwards for more people to watch, which is really great because we are doing our darndest to continue getting the word out about trail care and helping people feel more comfortable about getting out in our forests and learning trail care skills and practices and meeting other people. Um, and so I think this will be really helpful in like lowering the intimidation factor of talking to some people that do this on a regular basis and really getting a better understanding of what it is and what it's not. Um, and yeah, I think it'll be super fun. So just before we get started, I'm just going to um, run through like a minute of a couple slides. So if you are completely unfamiliar with what trail care is, which we're going to get into more in detail here with the Q&A, but there's a lot of different types of things that trail care looks like, and you might not even know when you're out hiking that some things that you see are the result of trail care. Um, so there's a lot of when you see something and maybe you're unaware of what it actually looked like before, looking at some of these before and after pictures is really powerful to understand the impact of what trail care projects can do for hikers. Another opportunity that we have going on right now, if you want to continue to meet people and just have some fun, we have our Trail Care Roadshow happening so we had a brewery event last Friday and we have one tomorrow, and then we have another one later in the month where you can come out and chat with some people and have some fun. And yeah, it'll just be a really good time to meet Jen and meet other volunteers and make some connections and learn more about the program. The 2024 season, our 40th season, which is super exciting. Jen has been working incredibly hard to create amazing events all around the state. So you can see where all these little white and blue circles are. That's where our events are right now. And I think there actually might be a couple other ones that get added later in the year, which is crazy and really exciting. But you can see they are spread out pretty well dispersed, generally speaking, across the state. So what's fun about this, at least for me, and the way that I like to help people think about it, is you could find one that's close to you that makes it convenient, or you can find one at a state park or a different trail that you've never been to, and then it becomes like a little vacation. You get to see the trail and you get to travel and you get to hang out with people. And um, I mean, you will be doing some things, doing some worky type things, but it's still a super fun experience, and you can almost do like a volunteer vacation situation. So that's really awesome that she's just done an amazing job at coordinating with all these lands to make these projects happen. And then lastly, I think this is the last thing I wanted to mention, but we have a really awesome event if you are interested in trying trail care and it might be your first time. And this Trail Love event that we're having in the Michoud State Forest, it's a one-day trail care opportunity, and there's going to be all different types of projects all throughout the forest, across the mountain, and there's a lot of different organizations that are coming together to lead these projects. And so Jen, again, I just applaud Jen all the time. She's worked really hard to coordinate with these people to make sure that there's opportunities for a lot of different types of people, whether you have, chainsaw skills or whatever that is, that you have certifications and you bring all these skills, or if you're like, I've never done this before, you're still going to have an opportunity to do something, and it's going to be great, and you'll get to learn, and you'll be surrounded by people who are going to support you along the way and train you and make sure you feel comfortable. And the show is delightful. So it's just a really wonderful place to go and be. So highly recommend this opportunity. It's going to be super fun. And then lastly, if you aren't a panel person, if you aren't a volunteer that's going to be chatting with us during the presentation, just if you could be mindful of keeping your mic muted. If you have questions that you want to ask, just throw them in the chat. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on the chat. We do have some questions that we're going to start out with, but if people have things that they want to share, that's amazing. And we'll keep an eye on that. And yeah, just thanks for being awesome. Um, and then Jen, I'd really love if you could just say hi. And then the volunteers that are here that are going to be on the panel, Jen, I don't know if you want to point those people out. That would be super helpful.
There, and there, and there. Yeah, so my name is Jen Ulmer. I'm the manager of trail maintenance and training with Keystone Trails Association. And so I really thank you all for coming to learn about what trail care is all about. We have some great volunteers on with us today. There's Shira Blady. Hello. There's Tony Robbins. I see Tony. There's Kevin Bosco. Hello, Kevin. And there's some other volunteers that didn't sign up to answer questions, but might be willing to, such as Pete and Al. So those are our main volunteers answering questions today. So hopefully they'll give you some insight about what trail care is all about.
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. Yeah, thank you, Jen. And thank you guys, everybody that's here to help with this. I'm seriously just beyond grateful for your time and your willingness. It just shows how much you value the experience and that you value trail care and that there's great impact that it has on our trails and on our state and for everybody that goes out to go hiking. So we'll just start with like super, super simple. For those who are here on the panel, what is your favorite aspect about trail maintenance and what inspired you to get started and try it? Anybody can just, I don't have a formalized process for this, so.
Well, I'll jump in and go first.
I'll let Kevin talk.
Thank you. So my name is Kevin Busco, and I've been doing trail work for about close to 20 years now. So the way I got started was I started out doing section hikes on the Mid-State Trail, and pretty quick into the game started looking at trail conditions and thinking about trail conditions and thinking about who was going out there and doing all that trail work. And then I did a little research and quickly found out that it's primarily the volunteer organizations, whether it was the Mid-State Trail Association, KTA, Standing Stone Trail Club, and many others. And I guess pretty quickly I decided that I needed to start giving back to the trail. So I started showing up to some trail care events and learning the ropes about what happens, and pretty quickly became an overseer on a section of the Mid-State and a section of the Standing Stone Trails. And pretty quickly after that, Ed Lawrence asked me to be Tom Thwaite's understudy to become the State College Region volunteer manager. So I jumped into that. And so I've primarily been doing that for 10 to 15 years and attending KTA trail care events, along with hiking and backpacking as many of the trails for as many times as I possibly can. And I think it's probably been one of the most rewarding things that I've done in my life, in terms of, what you get back from what you put in. And I think the people I've met have probably, I mean, the work obviously is important, but it's all the people that I've met along the way that's probably more important to me anyway. So that's where I am.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Not everybody has to share also. I just wanted to clarify, like if there's a question that's asked that you don't want to answer, that's totally okay. There's no pressure. I'll just wait for like a lull.
I can share. I got into trail care because I was relatively new to hiking and backpacking, but really enjoyed it. Was listening to podcasts about hiking, and they were talking about trail care, and the thought had never really crossed my mind before. So once I was I heard about that, I was like, oh, like I definitely want to try this. And it was really just chance that I found KTA. It was towards the end of the season. I was looking for really anything to get involved in. It's actually both me and my husband, who's not around tonight. He is lucky enough doing a little backpacking trip. Um, but yeah, and KTA was hosting one. I guess it was the first weekend of November, out in Elk State Forest. And yeah, it just warmed my heart and I was hooked. I think that what I get out of it mostly is the connection to people and the community. It's great to just like work on the trails and chit chat with folks. And then at the end of the day, sit around a campfire and, just share with each other. So that's really what keeps bringing me back.
Wonderful. Anybody else want to touch on that?
I did actually completely forget to introduce one of our attendees properly. Al Gurman, who's also on our webinar, is actually the latest KTA employee. As of this Monday, he is the PA Wilds Trail Care Coordinator. So he will be mainly working on that big blue blob that was on that map that Holly shared in the north central part of the state, working on most of those trail cares. So, that's the part of the state that's most rural, less people, and the trails need a lot of work up there. So we have Al dedicated to that area. So thanks, Al.
Yes, welcome Al. Please forgive me. That was really not nice.
No problem. That's fine. Hello, everyone.
Hey, it's great to have you on board, Al. I can't wait to backpack the Chuck Kuiper when I don't have to bushwhack.
Oh yeah, that's like priority number one for me personally. Gonna get that thing nice and clear.
Pristine. Cool. Okay, well, we can move on to another question. Something that so we just posted a post on Facebook just the other day, and I'd be curious to hear you guys' perspective for people that have already been out there volunteering, but what, if any, what fears did you have before attending your first trail maintenance event? And then how did you feel during that first event? Like what made you feel comfortable? What were some things that happened that made you feel like, oh, okay, I can do this? If you can even remember, some of you guys have been volunteering for like forever.
I think initially there was a little apprehension about walking kind of into a group of strangers and literally not knowing any of them. And so, the first trail care or two might have been a little not uncomfortable, but I still felt like a stranger. But it was very quickly, they just kind of pulled you into the flock and started talking to you and teaching you things and inviting you on more events. And I mean, within a year, I really felt like I had that I was part of it and I had a place there. So that was it for me.
I would say what I was most afraid of was that like I knew nothing. I had no trail care skills whatsoever. I was like, am I gonna be of any help? But they teach you what to do and you do what you're comfortable doing and you learn along the way. And yeah, every time you come back, you learn something new or you improve on another skill.
Yeah, I think you touched on something important, and that's that no matter what any one person's skill set is, there's a place for it in the trail care community. And I think the community needs to look at that and, you know, connect you to where you're going to be the most effective with what they're doing. And I mean, I think you'll enjoy it more and it works out the best for everyone.
That's great. Just curious then, you mentioned like different skills, the next question that I had on the list was what skills have you learned? So in the plethora of things that you could do out there on the trail, what sorts of things could somebody expect to potentially do? What have you learned along the way?
Well, from knowing absolutely nothing about how a trail was turned into a trail, quickly learned that things grow, so those things need to be removed. I think Tom Thwaites may have quoted it somewhat as uh, removing everything that doesn't look like a trail. But you quickly learn from just lopping of little things to painting blazes to running brush cutters to potentially being chainsaw trained and certified. Depending on what your interest level is, you could get into design of trails. You can get into design and construction of infrastructure like bridges and bog bridging and kiosks and things like that. And then there's background skill sets, just like maintaining all the tools. Somebody has to sharpen the chainsaws. Somebody has to sharpen the brush cutters. Uh, Making sure the fuel and oil supplies are, there. And then when you're talking about trail care events, that extends into people who cook food for the volunteers. So that's a whole other skill set in itself. And I bet Jen can vouch that the volunteer army travels on its stomach. So that's some of the things that I feel like I've learned along the way. I'm sure there are many things that I'm forgetting, but probably another is just because I've been a region manager and I've run some trail care events has been honing my definitely inadequate communication skills. So that was probably the toughest thing for me because I'm pretty much an introvert. So for me to reach out and communicate with strangers and feel confident about it was probably a good thing.
That's a great point. I feel like sometimes when you're forced into group situations and then you're learning something, it creates a semi-comfortable space or opportunity to share and talk, and then you bond with people over learning, and that's a really great way to connect with people. Does anybody else want to share a little bit about like some of their maybe like things that they've learned or things that they really like doing? If you have like a specialty that you like to do.
When I first started, the first trail care was on the Oil Sock Trail, and so the first thing I did was digging. From my work that I've done at work has injured my wrist and stuff, so I can't do it for very long. But that particular trail care, which was my first one in September 2010, kind of cemented it for me. And I've been to just about every trail care since then, except for a few, because I had to work every so many weekends. And I told Ed that, if my weekend fell on a code orange, which just was a 1 day trail care, that, that I wouldn't be attending that, but I was able to get weekends off, for all the full weekend ones. But then the following year I started doing brush cutting, and I don't like weed whacking, but brush cutting was a total different animal. And Tom and
Can you explain the difference between weed whacking and brush cutting for somebody who doesn't know?
whacking is using a string spinner, a head that has string on it, and it throws stuff all over you. Where brush cutting uses a cutter, like loppers, and it cuts the vegetation off, and it just falls down on the ground. So you're not totally coated with grass and weeds and everything else. And my former boss used to get so mad at me because I would not use a string trimmer at work. He goes, "Oh, you go out and you do all this brush cutting and stuff, but you won't run a machine here at work." I said, "Well," and I explained the same thing to him. So, and then I started doing chainsaw work, and again alongside with Tom Bastion. And a few years ago, I fell and permanently tore my MCL in my left knee. So doing the brush cutting is kind of out of the question now. And of course, so I've been doing a lot of mowing and chainsaw work since then. And then that's when I started to cook to kind of add, to what I couldn't do. So I'll have a few more new recipes for this year.
Sounds like we need a trail care recipe guide or something. Cooking has come up multiple times.
Well, I don't know if anyone has heard of Kent Rollins. He lives in Oklahoma, but it's Southern cooking, Texas, Oklahoma, and it's doing all either Dutch ovens or cast iron pans. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's super fun. Very cool.
So some good news on the trail care front is that we have a budget this year for food. So there will be food some other days besides Tony's cooking, usually on Fridays. So we might have some bag lunches. You can make your own sandwiches. Hopefully we'll have another cooked meal on Friday night or Saturday night, I mean. Maybe some breakfast in there. So we already have another volunteer that has offered to cook at some other trail care events. And then hopefully Donna and I can fill in some other days since we have the camper and the stove and all that good stuff. So that is really exciting. Food, as Kevin says, fuels trail care. And it's really nice when you get done with a day of trail work to come back and you don't have to cook your supper.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, that brings up a good point, just like a little side question. Jen or anybody really, but Jen specifically, would you be willing to just like give a a short brief overview of, when somebody thinks about a trail care weekend, you were mentioning, you go out and do trail care and come back for dinner. Like what does that flow or what does that process, like what a weekend, what somebody can expect, what's that look like?
Right. That was a lot of the questions on that Facebook post you made the other day. What's the time frame, the commitment? So they are trail care weekends, but you don't feel obligated to come for the whole weekend. You can come just for a day. A lot of people come just for Friday, and maybe they have their grandkids on the weekends. Or a lot of people that work during the week come up Friday night and they work Saturday and Sunday. You can come just for Saturday, whatever you feel comfortable with. But we have a time on the trail care schedule to come and meet us in the morning if you're coming just for the day. It's like 7:30. So if you are camping with us, you get up on your own, make your own breakfast, or hopefully have it made for you if we have that food budget. And then we'll all meet at like 7:30 and we discuss, who's going where. A lot of times this is pre-planned the night before, which makes it a lot easier. So we pre-plan who's going where, who's driving, who has these tools, who's going to be doing what. And then say about 8 o'clock or so, we head out to our different trailheads. We don't always go to the same place. So sometimes there's like a crew of 3 going here, crew of 4 going here. But if you're brand new, you will not be going out by yourself. You'll be going with somebody that knows what they're doing and is comfortable showing you what you're going to be doing. We'd like you to come back, so we want you to have a good experience. So then we work till about 11:30, 12 o'clock, taking breaks whenever you're comfortable. You're getting paid not much, as in zero. So you can take all the breaks you want. We have lunch, at hopefully a waterfall or a nice place to sit. And then we'll work again in the afternoon. And then we'll return to camp. We try to get back like between 4 and 5. Usually we head out to get a shower because we're kind of stinky. And then we have dinner either in camp. Sometimes we go out. If there's a nice restaurant nearby, that's Dutch treat most of the time. And then after is the best part. We get to sit around a campfire if it's not raining. We bring firewood and you get to talk about what you did all day, what kind of wildlife you saw, what trails you like to hike. So I've learned a lot just sitting around the campfire, what trails I want to hike, what trips I want to go on, what birds they saw. Oh, that's what that was. And then we, you know, you head to your tent, your hammock, and we start it all over the next morning. Or you can head home to your nice comfy bed. So that's the basic gist, I think. That covers it.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's really, I think, gives people a nice understanding of, it's not, I've seen pictures and like rest assured there's pictures of people sitting on the ground taking
Yes.
breaks, like not like out there just,
Or
working away
laying down.
without water breaks and snack breaks and nap breaks. It's an enjoyable experience. Yeah. And then you, like Jen said, you opportunity to camp, and that's wonderful and lovely. Cool. Thank you, Jen, for doing that. Um, okay. I'd be curious to ask, what's some of your favorite memorable trail care experiences? Or like a project that you were really proud of, or something along those lines, something that stands out that you're like, man, that was really awesome.
I'll go there. The same year, 2 weeks after I had fallen and tore my MCL, was able, there was, on the Donut Hole Trail, there was a creek called, Little Green Lick, or Green Lick Creek. And on a backpacking trip, I had discovered the original trail that had stayed on one side of that creek, but it also shares another trail, and they had changed it to where it crisscrossed that creek 5 times. During this, the summer and stuff, the creek's really low, so it was no big deal, but I was always on the trail in that location in the spring. So, the water can be pretty high. So I had gone back over several years and investigated and tried to find a good route, keep it on the original side that it was on, and then create a bridge where the one spot you had to cross. And that year, we cut down a white oak, cut it up, drug it downstream, got it turned, and put in place. And I had calculated that weighed about 7 ton. And we ended up, we had a skyline, but that weighed so much it actually started pulling one of the trees down. So we ended up having to use Tom just got a brand new truck, so they went out and got his jack that came with the truck to jack it up and finally get it up on the abutment. And then the next week we came back. That week the stream wasn't all that high. The very next week we came back to flatten the top. So I cut little cuts in the top of it, and someone came along with an axe and busted them off. And it created a rough top. And the stream was almost up to my waist as I'm standing in the stream making these cuts, which with the way my knee felt, that cold stream felt really good. But so that was one of the big events that I had done.
Yeah, that's wild. That's a heck of a thing. Anybody else?
I can't think of any super particular memorable story, but there certainly are a large collection of little stories about things that have happened at various trail cares through the years. And these are things that usually get shared around the campfire Saturday night during trail care. But I think in general, there's just that tremendous feeling of accomplishment of, say, when you have an area that's extremely overgrown with brush, and you've got crews working from either end, and they finally connect in the middle and you know that a whole section is finally open, or maybe you have a really good number of volunteers turn out and you get an amazingly long section of side hill dug in a day. And then at the end of the day, you get to walk back through there on your way out. And it's just, you know what it took you to dig, well, however much you dug. And then you look at that whole length and you gain an appreciation as to how much work even a small dedicated crew of volunteers can do just because they want to. I think some of those, and then in general, if you consider the amount of trails that have been kept open solely by the volunteers over the years, I mean, it's just really amazing.
I'd like to add, Shira, the first trail carrier you came to was Whitetail. Or I'm sorry, no, Bucktail. Yes. And I don't remember exactly which year it was, but there was a group of people who were doing side hill, and except for the last year or two, it was prior to that, it was always side hill digging. And a group of people had dug a trail down about 4.5 feet from where it was originally to get it flat and stable. And I thought that was really amazing how much they dug, just with the Pulaskis and hazel hose.
Yeah, I was gonna say actually one of my more memorable or heartwarming experiences also on Bucktail was after, spending 2 days clearing through a lot of stinging nettle and doing a lot of side hill, having a Facebook post shared with us afterwards from someone who just came through and was delighted with how the trail was. Seeing that like immediately afterwards was really great. It makes you feel real good about it.
That's so nice. How special.
Yeah, so my most memorable experiences are usually to deal with wildlife, or getting the chance to see bears, rattlesnakes, elk. There's always somebody on trail care that knows plants and birds. So I have learned so much about trees, about wildflowers, about what that bird was. But mostly the memories are the really fun times we have. Just the camaraderie is just amazing. It's a great group of people. And the chance to visit all these state parks and trails that I might not get to otherwise. Oil Creek up in the way northwest part, I probably would never visit if it wasn't for trail care. French Creek State Park, all these far-flung parks and trails that I'd never heard of, like the Bucktail Path before trail care. So it's really been an eye-opening experience.
Jen, I actually had on my list to ask you specifically, and it's a good segue because of what you just said, but could you share a little bit about, like what's the process? You have over a dozen trail care events scheduled for this year. Like how do you prioritize, or how do you get in contact with the people? How do you choose where to go for the
Exactly.
season? Like what does that look like? And then so that would be part one. And then part two is how do you decide what those projects are going to be at each of the sites?
Yeah, so of course it's really varied. Some of the trails we go back to year after year, like the Mid-State Trail always needs help. So we just always put an event on the calendar and the work will be there. Other times the state forester will contact KTA and say, hey, there's a really bad section on the Chuck Kuiper Trail that could use some help. Can you come out and give us a hand? That's mainly how it goes. Or I just reach out, does the West Rim need any help this year? Do you need any help on the Pinchot Trail this year? And they let me know. So also the work varies a lot. So some trail cares have a volunteer leader that goes out and scouts the trail for us. Like Shira and Brian do that on the Thunder Swamp Trail for us. Some trails, the Forest Service tells us what needs to be done. Others I see on Facebook, and then I contact the forester and say, hey, are you aware that this trail is really bad in this section? And they say no. They don't know about it if we don't tell them. So, they can't hike every section of every trail every day and find out what's wrong with it. Some other ones are just, us out there hiking and, this trail is really bad. Can we do something about it? So that's the basic stuff. So I'm still getting contacted, just last week I had an email from the Woodbourne Forest Preserve up in Susquehanna County that we were at in 2006 doing a trail care to help them open the trails. And their membership is aging, and they said they could use some help getting the trails back open. So I think we're gonna go up there and give them a hand.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah.
think that helps like with context for people to understand just all the connections and all the people that are involved with, like you were saying, sometimes it's just seeing it on Facebook and you're like, oh, we could do something about that. Or, people contact us and then you're also going out and maintaining relationships with people. So it's a pretty complex thing. And then thinking about the fact that, KTA serves the entire state, that's it's a lot of work. It's a lot of moving pieces. So kudos to Jen and everybody. Obviously, like you, other people are out there managing and keeping an eye on trails. So it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff going on. So some of you have talked a little bit about, working on making like working on your communication skills or like getting to know people. Are there any other personal benefits that you've experienced from trail care? Just like boosting your confidence, or are you getting stronger? Like what other things have you experienced on a personal level through trail care?
I can start. When I first started trail care, they gave me a pair of loppers because that's all they think that a girl can do. And I think since those early days, the trail care leaders and KTA in general has figured out that women can do some of the harder work, such as Shira. So we run brush cutters. I've really learned how to chainsaw next to Tom Bastion in the last couple of years, and it's really fun. It's just so rewarding to see the work we've done at the end of the day, and it's just great that we're not underestimated anymore.
That's awesome. Super empowering. Give me
Mhm.
something to
Yes.
chop or whatever. Yeah, that's awesome.
Jen, you forgot to mention your paint blazing skills.
That has definitely come along as well. Under the tutelage of Kevin. Yeah. I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I like this the 2x6 to be in blazes to be actually 2x6, not a blotch. It just looks so much nicer when you're out in the woods and it doesn't look like somebody was out there with a paintball gun. It's not so distracting, when you're hiking along. And that is the standard DCNR wants, so that's what I like to do.
It does look nice and crispy when they're on there.
Crispy.
Crispy.
I would say something that I don't know if this is necessarily like a trail care skill, but just like a better appreciation for the trails. As someone who enjoys hiking, you kind of like you pick up on things more and you see where people are putting effort into maintaining the trails, and it just makes you appreciate the trail in a different way. So I think that's something that's like really changed with me.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Just understanding the amount of time and care and heart that goes into these projects. Most people like the idea of hiking the trail, seeing the whole thing, and somebody might be working on a very small section all day. So instead of like hiking the whole 10-mile loop, you're in a quarter of a mile stretch all day. And But I think that slowness and that slowing down and noticing, that's a whole different way to experience a trail. And like you're saying, you build a relationship with it and you're invested in it and you feel you're part of that history of that trail being in Pennsylvania. And that's like, that's just such a cool thing.
This is Pete. Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, I've been volunteering for a little while now, and one of the things that I like the best is that the people who are out, and it's not just sitting around the campfire. It's also during the day, you know, at lunchtime or whoever you're digging side hill next to or whatnot. The This is one of the few activities left where it seems that people from really from all different walks of life, from all different areas, all different economic strata, people in different places in their life can all come together and talk and literally share common ground with the trail between them. So that's one of the things that I think is really special. You know, not everybody can, you know, set up a skyline and drag a bridge into place. Not everybody can GPS a 300-mile long trail, but I think everyone can come together and figure out what each one of us can bring, and certainly we encourage folks to come out again and again.
I really appreciate that you popped in to say that because that's a really lovely and really powerful point. Um, so true. Just that, yeah, everybody has a place, and I think it's interesting, you know, that I've heard stories and talked to other people that have done trail care, and it's like, oh, well, my day, I'm an accountant by day, or like, you know, I whatever, that it's they're an office job person, but on the weekends they go out and do trail care, and yeah, it's really cool that everybody can come out and unify around such an awesome mission. Um, some of you have mentioned that you are involved with like other trail trail clubs or hiking clubs that are dedicated to like a specific trail. I'm just curious, like your experience with KTA specifically, is there anything that you would say is really special or unique or different about KTA's trail care program? Um, Not saying that I don't want to make it sound like to compare in a sense of making KTA sound better, but just like, is there anything that you would say is unique or different or special about KTA's program?
I think I think it's kind of changed a little bit through the years in various ways, but at one point it was just the fact that KTA had all the tools. And then they also had the group of people that kind of followed the KTA trail cares around, and a lot of that still is the case. So there are a lot of small trails, small clubs that don't have those resources. And regardless of the trail, I think KTA is drawing people in from across the state and bringing them to these individual trails to do the trail work. So as a result, you know, those people are getting to know trails they might not have been familiar with as well.
Thanks for sharing that. That's a good point. I guess Jen, if you want to I guess it would make sense because of what Kevin just mentioned. The trails that KTA focuses on for the most part, now you mentioned like Mid-State Trail and some other trails that do have, you know, backing of clubs, but a lot of the trails don't. And do you want to talk a little bit about that and what that means and why it's important?
Right. So historically, KTA has focused on what we call the orphan trails. So it is trails that don't have a maintaining club. And we've generally focused on the longer, the state forest hiking trails. So the orange blazed ones, such as like the Chuck Kuiper, the West Rim, the Quihana, the Golden Eagle, Black Forest Trail. And as you know, a lot of those are in the north central part of the state. But we do also help trail clubs when they need help, such as the Mid-State Trail, because they don't have volunteers for every section of that 320-mile trail. We help state parks, so a lot of those tend to be one-day organized events. Sometimes with the Friends of the State Park, or if they don't have a friends group, they usually need help on their trails as well. What am I forgetting? So yeah, those are the trails that we generally work on. We have helped like the North Country Trail and the Baker Trail as well, but not so much lately because I think they've gotten a pretty good volunteer core group of people.
I'd like to add something
Oh, yeah.
that Kevin had, was speaking of. I know when I first started, runners and that didn't really help with trail care too much. But lately they've been doing more and more, and Trail Dogs is now has a pretty good collection of tools. And so they've been doing a lot of trail work on trails that we do work on. But for their 100-mile trail runs and the different trail runs. So a lot of the trails that we haven't been able to, parts of the trails we haven't been able to get to, they've been taken care of. And the other thing, the way the trail care has evolved from when I started, it was always just Saturday and Sunday. And so we would show up on Friday night and then only work a full day Saturday. And if we were at a state park, most of the time we were working on something in the state park for them since they gave us the campsites for free. And after a while, Tom Bastian, Ed Lawrence, and myself started going out on Thursdays and doing some stuff, and then on Friday. And eventually that's how we got to the point now that we have a Friday full day, Saturday full day. And most of the time, we go out and work Sunday half a day or more if people want to stay longer. Besides, working in actually in the state park itself.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that background. That's helpful to know and cool to see like how it's evolved and expanded. Pete just popped in the chat that that's something that makes KTA's program different, that the weekend crews have with KTA have free camping for the majority of the time, that it's a perk of
Mhm.
coming out for the weekend. Yes, Jen.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that we also have more money in the budget this year for lodging. So you might notice on the schedule, some of the shoulder events in like March and April. Well, not March, but April, May, and then later in the year, we actually indoors. So we have lodging for the first event at cabins at Parker Dam State Park, which I'm really looking forward to because I haven't stayed in one of those. The big fireplace outside on the porch. The next trail care for the State College region of the Mid-State Trail, we're going to stay at a Boy Scout camp in a cabin. And then the next trail care after that, we're going to stay at the lodge at Hinder Run State Park, which I've always wanted to see. So it's basically just a big house with a lot of bedrooms. You can tent outside if you want. And then we have an assortment of state parks, group camping areas, private campgrounds, state parks again, another Boy Scout camp. So we have basically lodging is you either bring your own tent or hammock. You can camp in your car as well. A lot of people do that. It's pretty convenient for them. A lot of people have their own RVs and they can bring them if we have sites for them, or they can get their own campsite if they want. So the lodging options are really pretty varied. So, check each event out and see what is available and let me know if you have any questions about any event that's on there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super
Mhm.
cool. To see that things are just having that variety, I think probably will help or could potentially help people, if they're not somebody who wants to tent camp, but there's other options. That's wonderful. Just making it more accessible and open to different types of people. So that's great. And, you know, it'd be nice. A little bit of well-deserved bouginess at the end of the day. So super cool. Well, do want to be mindful of everybody's time. And so I do appreciate everybody that was on here and willing to share their stories and insight. Um, if anybody has any last words of advice for potential new volunteers, we'll open the floor one last time, but if not, we'll just bring this to a close. And again, super, super thankful for you guys' time.
I just want to say if you have any inclination to try it, just come out for a day and give us a shot. I think you'll probably like it because it's really rewarding. So just give us a shot.
Do you have any sense as to what maybe are the top 5 questions that potential volunteers do have?
Yeah, a lot of them. So Holly just posted a question on Facebook the other day. You know, I forget what the exact question. What was the exact question?
The question was, if you haven't tried trail care before, what would make you feel more comfortable and willing to give it a try? And it seemed like a lot of people, it was more, not that they didn't want to. A lot of people were like, I want to do this. And it seemed some of the responses were like, I don't know how to sign up, or it's a scheduling issue for me. Like I can only volunteer for a couple hours on the weekend versus doing a whole weekend, or like I don't know how to get started. It didn't seem like people were afraid to do it or didn't think that it was something they could do. It was just a matter of, getting it on their calendar and being reminded that, you don't have to come a whole weekend. You could come for like an afternoon or a day, and um pointing them to resources such as Jen's lovely schedule this year of finding an event that piques their interest. And yeah, Jen, were there any insights that you gleaned from looking through the comments?
Yeah, that was a lot of it. I think if we post a lot more stuff on Facebook, because I think they don't go to the website that much. So, more things on social media to, about the different events, about what the trail work is. A lot of them don't know actually what we do. So that's one thing we are trying to plan, getting some videos on our website about, what is brush cutting, what is lopping, what does it look like to prep a tree and then paint a blaze. So people can realize, I think I could do that. I'm going to give it a try. A lot of people were wondering why there weren't events in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and it's mainly because, there are groups there that attend to those trails. So I did direct them to some organizations out that way. So, if you don't feel like coming to one of our events, maybe check out the Find a Club function on our website, and maybe you can find a club in your area that works on a trail so you don't have to travel as far. But we do get people that come from Philadelphia, all the way up to the Black Forest Trail to work on it, because like Holly said, it could be like a fun hot weekend. Like, oh boy, I get to get on the Black Forest Trail, which I haven't been to yet.
So that's me. That's me exactly from
I know.
Philadelphia. I will take my vacation time to go to the Black Forest Trail. But I don't know. I just wanted to say that I intentionally don't volunteer with some of the groups in the Philadelphia area because I have a lot of people already there. And the reason I want to volunteer with KTA is because it needs more help. And there's a lot of trails out there that don't have, like we said during this call, that they don't have dedicated clubs to it. It becomes just more of like a fun, exciting thing to do, Yeah, maybe I'll drive 3.5 hours each way to go out there, but it takes you out of the city and you get to meet a lot of different people. And I think that's what makes it really special.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. That's a really lovely point. And yeah, that it is different because of the thing, like what you just said, that these trails don't have the clubs. And so it's like a really special opportunity to work on these trails because nobody else does. So it's pretty magical. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much. I do really appreciate your time. This was wonderful. I'm really excited to be able to share this with um the the community. We're, like I said, we'll put the recording on the website and people can watch or listen at their leisure. And I think some of these things that we talked about, I'm probably gonna like pull out as little clips to be able to share just like little sections on social media or put them on the website and stuff, because some of these stories are just like really great insights, I think are need to be showcased. So thank you guys for being so willing and so kind with your time and your sharing.
Thank you all, and I'll see some of you really soon.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys have a lovely evening and a wonderful weekend. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for asking certain ones of us to participate. I
Oh,
enjoyed
for
it.
sure.
I hope I was able to share something worthwhile.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everybody was wonderful. Thank you. Cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Good. Oh, I'm so glad. Great.
Thanks, Hallie. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.